Hi, Darrell.
Thank you, Steve, for asking me to come tonight. Thanks, Kevin, for kicking us off. I don't have notes. I just have a story. I don't know how to cram it into half an hour. I don't know what to tell you. But here we go. I discovered alcohol at 13 years old. I was, to that point, a pretty nervous, anxious, short, thin, freckle-faced, big-eared, easy to pick on kid who flinched. That was a flincher, and you get 2 for flinching, and you get 2 more for flinching at that. And it never ends. When I found booze, I just was like, this is great. No wonder all the grown-ups are drinking it, and how do we get more? And that was my mission from that point on. And first it was just like, it was so hard for me to get alcohol. I mean, it looked like Alfred E. Newman. There was no like fake ID for this guy. I just, so I had to work the scene all the time. Like, where is the booze going to be? How are we going to get it? Who's going to get it? And I was like, I think it was my first like real demonstration of leadership. I think, I showed some leadership in those early teen years of like, people would be like, we're going to a party. I'm like, yeah, but what about the booze? And they were like, oh yeah, I guess we get it. I'm like, idiots. Like, where would you be without me? We got to get booze, like find it, get it. Who's got an older sister, something, So I was always the organizer for that, but it was all, for myself. And I just did not understand that not everybody was having the same experience that I was having. Like my friends were like, oh, yeah, I guess we could drink some beer. And I was like, what else is there? Like the party is just an excuse to get the booze. Like, like to me, that was the be all end all. And I really thought that that was true for everyone else. Like I didn't understand that until well into my sober years. Like going, oh, I don't think everybody was actually appreciating all the effort that I went into to make sure that we all had a good time, but it was all about meeting my needs. I drank steadily, through high school. I found marijuana. I became a daily pot smoker. Booze and pot, just that was my yin and yang. It was like I was so good with those things, and they lubricated my life. Honestly, like I went from being a disruptive, bad student, to being like I got to be a better student as I went on. And I went to college, and then I was free to drink and self-medicate as much as I wanted, and I like became an A student. Like I didn't have consequences at first. I just like found that I was calmer, that I was like in control of my life, and I would sit there in my dorm room with a 6-pack and a bong, just typing away, and people were like, how can you do that? And I was like, this is the only way to go, man. And I would just like turn in papers I didn't even read, and then I would do all right, and I was like, okay, obviously I should go to the test this way too, because this is the ticket, And so I rolled that way. I went through grad school that way. My drinking progressed. I was a comparative literature major, so like all my heroes were writers, and all the writers, you got to write in a blackout. So I mean, like that was cool. And I was, just really positioning myself nicely for all that. And then I moved. Well, then I discovered that the internet blew up. I wound up meeting a girl, and I moved to Seattle and got into the .com scene. I won't explain to you how an English major becomes a software developer, but that happened for me. And it was working all day and night, drinking all the time, perfect, and I just like it kept going, and my life kept getting better. I kept better. Like I had increasing, examples of success. I had a career, and then that girl and I got married. But she didn't like my drinking as much as I did. And so, I was sort of the first of the problems, and she didn't like that I smoked pot much at all. So I'm also a really good hider, very good at hiding, sneaking. Learned that at home, and I'm really good at it. I love hiding. To this day, I love all the holidays that have to do with hiding too. You know, it's Christmas and Easter and stuff, and just like a chance to keep something from you and like give it to you on my terms. Um, so that's where the problems started. But you know, we got married. That was an excuse to party for at least a year and a half, through engagement parties and whatever else. Um, Things went well for me for a really long time. And, you know, then the hangovers started and that became so problematic. So I'm sort of starting to lie to my wife, and I'm not starting to lie to my girlfriend. Now she's my wife, but I'm just lying more, doing what I want. I'm trying to live two lives, you know. There's the good life and then there's the life I want or something. They're increasingly difficult to hold both. Um, and one thing that's funny to note actually is Thanksgiving 1996, when we first moved here, we were having Thanksgiving at home in our new apartment, and I was drinking like all day, cooking, having a great time, and I broke out like in these hives uh, around, I don't know, 8 p.m. or something, and my breathing was a little short, and so she was like, we should call the nurse line. You know, we called the nurse line, and they said, take a Benadryl, but if it's not better in an hour, you need to go to the ER. And so in an hour, it was not better, and I had to go to Harborview. By the time they saw me, it was better because it was Thanksgiving and it just took me a long time to process that Benadryl. So the Benadryl helped. But it was this mystery. And this mystery started happening more and more over the years. I'm allergic to alcohol. Like, you know, there's this thing about how we have an allergic reaction to alcohol. Like, I actually have one. It didn't happen every time, but it happened increasingly. So I became accustomed to keeping a couple Benadryl in my panty pocket here. And then, of course, you know, that stuff makes you tired. So you got to have a Red Bull or maybe some of those, you know, 5-hour energy drinks at the 7-Eleven. So, you know, to drink, I got to take Benadryl, and then I got to take any upper I can get my hands on, you know, so I can keep drinking. Sustainable for a while, for quite a while. And things got bad. And, you know, at some point, someone said to me, because I expressed concern about how I was doing, and he said, well, listen, you know, I don't think you have a problem. Either you have it or it has you. And my heart sank because I knew it had me. And my friend was like, you know, you're okay. Either you know, he thought it was the other way around. And I was just like, cool, thanks. So you're right. Okay. Shit. Sorry. Hold on. And so I think it was sort of from that point on, I was like really aware of the fact that I was in over my head and was probably going to die, you know, due to this disease. And okay, you know, like, what are you going to do about it? I mean, I certainly couldn't stop, didn't want to stop, and just slowly came to terms with the idea that this was going to be the way I went out. And it was sad. It was a sad story. Like, at this point, I have 2 kids, so maybe I had both kids by the time I was really resigned to this. And I was like, their dad's going to die, like, when they're young, and that's going to be rough. But, like, there's nothing to be done, you know? And I felt like that was acceptance. You know, I had full acceptance. And the people who cornered me on New Year's Eve, 2014, and got me to say yes to going to treatment were the ones with the acceptance problem. They could not accept that I was an alcoholic. They wanted me to change. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, this is stupid. But I finally gave up. And New Year's Day, 2015, I got on the Clipper and I went away for 2 months and I went to treatment. And it sucked and I hated it. And the promises were on the wall. I couldn't even look at them. I don't want to hear any of that. Like, don't blow smoke. It's just like, no, none of this. And it was miserable. And I left pretty much as miserable, dried out. My liver numbers recovered. Maybe my tolerance has gone down. Maybe, you know, I drank immediately on getting out of treatment. It did not go well. I just didn't get any kind of pleasant buzz at all. I just drank terrible, like vodka and 7-Eleven wine in a box, down the side of my house in the darkness, getting nothing out of it. And like that was a new bottom for me. I had entered treatment with the shakes, couldn't hold a pen to sign the paperwork, completely almost dead. And then got out thinking, maybe, I didn't want to drink. I just wanted a relief from it, and it wasn't there. And I realized what they had told me was maybe true. And I picked up right where I left off, and I had seriously broken my drinking bone forever. And so I, started IOP. I got in trouble for that UA, but I talked my way out of it. Some kombucha and some cold medicine, sort of managed to stay in the game and lied about my sobriety date, had to stick with that January 1st date. And is it counting up or down? So I just threw myself into this thing. I had zero hope that I could do whatever you guys do here. You couldn't just give me a book and talk about this stuff. Like I knew I was an alcoholic. I'm like not the kind that you can fix with like a prayer and some words and some meetings. Like that's for, I don't other people. But I just decided that I would do all the things, check all the boxes, do them thoroughly. So everyone could be like, yeah, he was the real deal. Like you couldn't fix him with this stuff. Like he was a total alcoholic. You couldn't save Darrell's coins and triangles and dogs and stuff, And so I set out to do it, and I started going 90 to 90. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. I was miserable. Like I just wouldn't wish my first year of sobriety on anyone. It's so unfair that the very first thing we have to do is climb the steepest, sharpest cliff with like soft little non-calloused hands, and no muscle at all. Like you don't get to ramp up to this thing to get sober. You start with the hardest part first, and that first year was terrible. But I did all the things, got through the step work. I was still miserable. I was pissed about the promises really at this point because I'm like, okay, like it was supposed to be before I was halfway through. Now it's after I'm done and I still don't have the promises. So obviously those are made up. And then it was in November of that year that I was asked to chair a meeting when I walked into the meeting. And so I had no time to think. And it was my home group and I've been going there for a while every morning. And so I sat down at the big book and flipped it open, and it flipped open to the promises. And I was kind of like, whoa, total God shot. What are the odds this book is just going to open to the promises? Well, really good, actually, because people open it to there all the time. I mean, it's just, but I kind of took it as a whoa moment. So I decided to read the promises for that share. And I was like, this is the first time these haven't really pissed me off. Like, I think some of this might be happening for me. And I think maybe I'm feeling better. And then I didn't realize it till just now, but I just don't feel as angry. I'm not ruminating so much, like spinning on the same negative thoughts just endlessly. We went around the room and everyone was like, yeah, dummy, we know. Like we've been watching, you've been improving. And it says it, in the spiritual experience at the back of the book. Like I was the last one to know that I was getting better. Nothing in this program has happened for me in real time. Everything's been in hindsight. Would also like to say that nothing in this program looks good from the outside. I don't want to be in the meetings. I don't want to do the steps. I don't want to get a sponsor. I definitely don't want to do service. I don't want to speak. I don't want to answer the phone when people call. None of it. And absolutely every one of those things turns out to be gold every time. And I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I still don't get it. I still, I know to say yes. I've been trained to say yes, but I think, I'll answer the phone. And then I'm done with the phone call and I feel better. and I like do the step work or whatever is asked of me, I do it and I feel better. I heard someone say that as different as we all are and our stories are, that that person was convinced that every one of us share an anxiety disorder. And that really stuck with me. I think that might be true. It's true for me. I think I may have always struggled with anxiety. I self-medicated for a long time. And it was great while it was good, but I could not let go. So here we are. I've turned the corner. I call my sponsor and I say George, like something is up, but like I feel better, I think. And I can't stand it. Like I can't stand the idea of going back to feeling bad again. Like if this is some kind of delayed pink cloud, I don't want it. I've just been learning how to be miserable. I can't have like this little, moment of grace or whatever. And he was like, maybe Christmas came early for you this year. Mine's been sticking around for like 4 years now. Maybe yours will stick around too. And it did. And so I keep doing all the things and I'm happy to do them because it's like such a small price to pay. Like I do so little for the benefit that I've got out of this deal. It's really, really funny. I mean, like I go, oh man, I got a secretariat meeting for the next 12 weeks, just to have like a life where I don't have to lie to people anymore, where I have superpowers on Super Bowl Monday and the day after St. Patrick's Day and July 5th. I'm at work like, who wants to have a meeting this morning? And everyone's pretty bleary-eyed and like slow it down. I love my life and I love how wrong I was. And I've gone from early sobriety Darrell wants to punch this sobriety Darrell right in the face. Like I could not stand the rah shares at the meetings at all. And but I can't help it now because I am like more surprised than anybody because I came in here with like just terrible, cynical, bad attitude, just gonna check all the boxes, go back out, probably die, and no one can say shit, and I you guys got me anyway. Like even with this terrible attitude, I just did the stuff and it worked out for me. And that's like, I guess, that's the biggest miracle that's ever happened for me. Miracles were another thing. I was just like, oh, don't say promises, don't say miracles. And but the first little taste I got of miracle was probably at about 5 months, 4 months, I don't know. I was in a meeting and someone said, when was the obsession to drink lifted for you? And I was like, when did this happen? Like, when did I stop plotting my next drink? Because I was always like, well, let's see, IOP and Thursday night. Technically, I could probably drink Thursday night. And even if there were a urine analysis on Monday night, I might get away with it. I should go to GNC or whatever and find out what those people are taking to get up. But I stopped plotting it. I stopped wanting that next drink. Like, I don't know when that happened, but it was the most impossible thing that I could think of. What I thought we were going to learn here was to sit on the sidelines and watch the rest of the world go on with the party because, Darrell, you're busted, pull over, we're taking your drinking license, you're done. And I was never going to get to have fun again. And what you were going to teach me to do is how to be okay with that. Like, sorry, Darrell, you used up all your points already. And that's kind of why I was like, it'd be okay to die, I guess, because like I used up all my points. I just went through life faster. It's not such a tragedy if I die soon. And so instead, this miracle happened. And I was able to like recognize it as such in that moment. And and then start complaining about how the promises hadn't come true for me. But the next miracle was sort of that realization that like my life, like I had stopped ruminating and that I wasn't so upset anymore. And they kind of keep coming. And I'm continually surprised. I said I'm a flincher. I was sitting in the sauna one day at work. There was a little sauna that I used to escape to all the time. It was like a little metal heater in it. And the thing, like the metal just popped out all of a sudden. Just got big. It was like a shot. Bang. And I didn't jump. And I remember thinking that is really weird. Like I would have been just, right on the ceiling, but I just didn't even flinch. And I was like, am I not a flincher anymore? Like, I don't know. Like, don't test me. I probably. But again, in the spiritual experience, I love that appendix so much, and it says we find we've undergone a profound change in our reaction to life. Like I knew I had to change my responses, right? Like, okay, Darrell, pause. You're gonna have your little reaction, but then you're gonna respond in a sober way. People are gonna be impressed. But you're gonna be stuffing that reaction because you're still scared or mad or whatever it is. And like another miracle. I actually have like noticed slowly in hindsight that I have undergone a profound change in my reaction to life. Like that hardwired level, I didn't think could ever change. It was just basic Darrell wiring. There's so many things I want to talk about. Prayer. The God thing. Wasn't going to do any of that. But what did I say? Thank God for AA and thank AA for God. Like AA said I could have a higher power any way I wanted it. So really there's no wriggling out of that. It's all up to me. If I reject it, that's because I've defined it in a way that doesn't work for me. So go back and try again, Darrell. So for me, I have a higher power concept that works for me because AA tricked me into that. There's no way out of it. You get to make it whatever you want. Where was I going? Oh, and then prayer. Like, I'm not sure this is a God that's like really listening to me. I haven't really defined it that way, but okay, I start praying. And the tough one that came up was around my resentments. I was being encouraged to pray for people I resented. And I finally asked my counselor, I was like, what is that about? Like, tell me what to say, because I don't know how to pray for these people. And he said, well, these people are bad, right? And I was like, yeah, they're terrible. And he was like, well, wouldn't the world be a better place if they weren't so bad? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, then pray for that. Pray that these people would not be so terrible. This is sort of a judgy place to come from in terms of praying, but it worked for me. And it worked for me big time. Like, people were awful. Like them, I won't go into it, but I justified anger here, and judgment and all that. But when I prayed for these people consistently for a short time, for them to be relieved of their terribleness, I found relief. And I guess there's so much I want to say. I'm so stupidly grateful for all of this. The return on investment is so huge. I do so very little. I definitely don't spend as much time doing recovery stuff as I did drinking, but I do a lot of recovery stuff. I still go to 90/90. I've been going to 90/90 the whole time. It's just the best way for me. I go to morning meetings because it's getting answered before the test. I love that little phrase. It just sets me right. It's the best my day is going to go is if I just get aligned. I wake up every morning with untreated alcoholism. First thing I do is come to you guys, get my little fix, and then I get in my day. And the other thing I wanted to say is just that, like, I was always saying I wanted happiness. Like, happiness was the goal. I was in pursuit of happiness at all times. And I found peace here. And when there's peace, like, happiness is like a trivial little toy. You guys were like, if your dreams came true, you'd be selling yourself short or whatever. Totally true. I would have said, happiness. I'll take happiness. And you would have been like, well, it's too bad you didn't choose peace, Darrell. But thankfully, he didn't set me up like that. I found peace here. I couldn't be more grateful. I'm just like, I have to go on and on, but I'm stopped. Thank you so much.